So thank you so much for being here today, and I'm incredibly excited to share some of the fundamentals of esoteric astrology with you, because if we can understand esoteric astrology in a practical and grounded and full way, we have the tools to really create a vehicle for more love, more freedom, more power in our lives. And so in looking at esoteric astrology, we're going to look at the soul's calling, and we're going to look at the soul potential. And we're going to look at the chart, but not just say to ourselves, when will I get married, and will I have a new car? And we're going to say to ourselves, how can I use this map to chart a course to a fuller, more vivid, more vibrant, more selfless, more loving life? And though we cannot know the astrology of the soul right now, we can know how the soul can infuse itself in this two-dimensional picture of the heavens and bring this map to life so that we can give our gifts fully. The chart is actually the vehicle for the soul ray to come into expression. So it's more important that you know the soul ray. I mean, it's fundamental that you know the soul ray before you begin to interpret how the chart can carry that, you know? So the 7 rays, as some of you may know, and so just very simply, is your soul on the ray of will and power? Is your soul on the ray of love, wisdom? The first ray is will and power. The second ray is love, wisdom. The third ray is intelligence and adaptability. The fourth ray is the ray of the artist and harmony through conflict. The fifth ray is the ray of science and luminous intelligence. The sixth ray is devotion and idealism. And the seventh ray is ceremonial order and magic. So, you know, even at the simplest level, if one of those words made your heart sing, like, yes, we can start to follow the clues of that. And so many of us are second ray souls at this time. The second ray is very much in manifestation, but there are many of us that are not as well. So it's fundamental before we even begin to look at a chart that you know the soul ray. However, having said that, we're going to sort of, I'll bring up the rays as we discuss the planets, because rays pour through planets, and I'll bring up the rays as we express the signs. Because you'll see how they all thread together and give you information as we thread them together. But having said that, let me just say, we're going to sort of put the rays over here and say very important, and we shall discuss them fully later, okay? But some other key pieces of esoteric astrology, okay? So it's esoteric astrology, soul-centered astrology. So the most important point in esoteric astrology is the rising sign. In personality astrology, it's the sun. In esoteric astrology, it's the rising sign. So the rising sign and the sun sign are reversed in esoteric astrology. And the rising sign is the sign that is rising within you. It is the sign of the quality that you want to call into being. And on your charts that you received, it's the point at the far left point of the circle. And in fact, I might even hold up a chart for you just to show you. It would be the point right here in the circle, okay? Whatever sign is right there. There are no signs on this, right? But it's right there. So the rising sign is called the sun of possibility. What possibly could manifest in your life. Now, in traditional astrology, that point has so much to do with how you appear, what you look like, how you might behave walking into a party, you know. But in esoteric astrology, that point has to do with what your soul, how your soul is meant to shine through, what quality you're meant to cultivate, what quality you're most meant to give most fully. And in your packets, you'll see, you don't have to look now, but there are, there's soul phrases, there's soul mantrams. Like for Aries, it's I come forth, and from the plane of mind I rule. So this is a soul mantra that you would particularly want to use based on your rising sign, okay? So the sun in esoteric astrology is called the sun of probability. What you will most probably manifest, it's the personality. And we hope it's the integrated personality. You know, we hope it's this, the emotions, the mind, and the physical being all working together. And then the sun is in service to the rising sign. So this is a beautiful concept that if you can capture, it would go a long way in offering up a particular journey for you. So whatever you're good at, like in the personality world, in the sun world, is absolutely in service to your soul's calling. All that energy is in service to your rising sign. So if you're a Taurus sun and you have tons of practicality and you know how to manifest and you are good at sort of rhythmically moving through your day, creating beauty, and you have Sagittarius rising, which is the biggest vision and the biggest quest, then all that Taurus energy, the marching steadily forward, the steadfastness, the ability to create beauty tangibly, lends itself to the inspiration, to the vision, to the dream. So you have to think about your personality as absolutely being the willing servant to the rising sign. And this is one of the key concepts for esoteric astrology, because this quality of, and this is why the time of birth, of course, is so important, because what moment did the soul choose to enter? And it's always particularly juicy if it's like 29 degrees or 0 degrees, you know, because if 0 degrees, it's like, and now, you know, now I get to be Scorpio rising or whatever it is. Most people, yeah. So of course, for a particular soul, you could say they would look for a time of birth that would be particularly aligned with the rising sign. You can't choose, you know, the soul couldn't choose every single moment for its line of next development, but it would choose very carefully the rising sign. And that's why, of course, cesareans and inducing, that's a whole fabulous territory to explore, because what are we doing when we start to mess with the soul choice to enter? So in esoteric astrology, sun, rising sign, and moon. Now here's the other piece that's very different. In traditional astrology, the moon has a lot to do with the feminine energy and has a lot to do with comfort and you know, what we like. In esoteric astrology, it is a dead planet or a dead star, okay? We could say, and it is our past, and it is what we are meant to outgrow. And we are sort of meant to bless the past and say, thank you, this is my lineage. I came in knowing how to do this thing. I came in instinctually feeling comfortable in this area. Wherever your moon is, you're like, oh yeah, I'm good at that. No problem. But if you just keep on saying, oh yeah, I'm good at that, and you don't risk the rising sign, then there's no growth, right? There's no opportunity for cultivating more wisdom and love throughout the life, and intelligence. So the progression, very simply in esoteric astrology, is the moon is the past, the sun is the present, and the rising sign is the future. I sort of like to say in a simple way, you know, we're born in this like comfort of the moon. It's like, oh, we go to that when we're in pain or fear. We go to that comfort zone. You know, a moon in Capricorn would go to organizing everything if they're in a panic, you know, or if they're feeling fearful. They're like, oh, if I just organize it. You know, a moon in Taurus would go with their ice cream. I mean, this is exoteric, but nonetheless, this is our comfort zone. And then, but we have to leave that comfort zone, and I like to think of the sun as the vehicle or the car that zooms away from the moon and says, okay, this is who I am. This is what it's like to have an integrated experience. This is what it's like as the sun to start to look a little bit outside the self, you know? And you're driving towards a time or a place where your work is selfless, where your work is for the betterment of humanity, where your work is upliftment. If we're really living into the highest calling of our rising sign, we are doing the Aquarian work, which is the group work that uplifts us all. So Truly, esoteric astrology is when we stop being consumed with the personality day to day, and we start looking from the ajna, we start looking from the heart, we start, the higher chakras become active, okay? And actually, this is another key point about esoteric astrology, where for thousands of years we progress through the signs in a clockwise motion. So we go from Aries to Taurus, but it's via Pisces. So it's sort of Aries, Pisces, Aquarius. Now, it's not in an exact order. It's not like first you're born in Aries, then you're born in Pisces, then you're born in Aquarius. But there is generally a clockwise progression through the signs. And that's the probationary path. That's when we're like, okay, I'm just doing it for me and I'm surviving and, But at a certain moment, we have the reversing of the wheel, it's called. And the reason why I bring it up now is because the reversing of the wheel actually has to do with the transfer of the energy from the lower chakras to the upper chakras. So we become interested in love and intelligence and will. And we become interested in what we can do for our brother, our sister. It becomes a selfless act to give your gift. And see, this is the beautiful thing about this time. And I'll come back to the reversing of the wheel, but this is the beautiful thing about this time. We're entering the age of Aquarius, group work, but it is a requirement that we show up in our full resplendent Leo selves, not our proud, like, look at me selves, but our full resplendent Leo selves, where we are really giving the gift of the rising sign, giving the gift of the chart entirely supervised by the soul. So we are required to show up and shine forth for the good of the group. And this is the beautiful and tricky thing, right, is that the Leo-Aquarius polarity is fascinating this way, because Aquarians can sometimes just be like, well, it's all the group, it's only the group, I'll disappear into the group. But in fact, you can't just disappear into the group. You have to step forth and give your part in the group and then step back. And then watch somebody else come forth and watch somebody else come forth, yeah? So in any case, another primary premise or fundamental concept of esoteric astrology is this moment when the wheel reverses and we start to go through the incarnations counterclockwise, okay? So we go Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. Now, it's said in Treatise on White Magic that the sign in which you die is the sign in which you are born in the next lifetime. So, it's again, it's not going to be sequential, but it's more of a symbolic turning of the energies to it's a shifting of the energies so that all the higher chakras are active. Okay, so that's another premise of this. Now, let me just say one more thing, which is, have you heard of the crosses in esoteric astrology? Okay, it's important to talk about the crosses in two different ways. In your personality charts, or in your charts, you could say, there's a quality of activity that's reflected by what's called the crosses. So, Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn are on what's called the cardinal cross. Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio are on the fixed cross. And Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Pisces are on the mutable cross, all right? Now, the mutable cross, if you have a lot of planets in the mutable cross in your chart, there's tremendous fluidity, flexibility, change, don't pin me down. It has a lot to do with just constant movement, really. And it grows through the flow. If you have a lot of planets in the fixed cross in this chart, exactly as it sounds, fixed, tenacious, standing strong, So if you have a lot of planets in Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, there's a fixity. And if you have a lot of planets in cardinal signs, it's all about initiative. What are we going to start now? What are we going to begin now? And they have all different flavors of beginning. Aries begins very headstrong and diving in. Cancer begins in a much more spherical way. Like, let me include this, now let me include this, now let me include this. So those are qualities of energy that it's interesting to note, that give you a flavor of your chart. And you can, as the day progresses and as you go and look at your chart on your own, you can say, oh my goodness, I have 6 planets in cardinal signs. So you know just from that there's a capacity to begin, there's a capacity to initiate. Or if you see that you have 8 planets in fixed signs, you're not going to be a person that, enjoys change, right? However, these 3 crosses are also outside of the chart very important in that the mutable cross rules the probationary path. It rules the path of the thousands of years where we're just trekking along thinking about ourselves. The fixed cross has to do with discipleship, and presumably, most of us are on the fixed cross, or at least heading towards the fixed cross. And we could spend many, many lives on these crosses, many lives, but it's called the fixed cross. And that, in discipleship, you have to take a stand. You take a stand for the soul when we're on the fixed cross. And so you don't, it's the way you don't move until the love and the will and the power and the intelligence is flowing. And the cardinal cross has to do with the path of initiation, and has to do with the spirit. So people get confused a lot of times when we say, oh, I have 8 cardinal signs. I must be a 4th degree initiate because I'm on the process of initiation. It doesn't overlap like that. It doesn't, just because you have a bunch of fixed planets doesn't mean you're a disciple. Just because you are all mutable doesn't mean that you're lost. Okay? But when we talk just purely about how it might affect you in terms of the planets and the signs, it does give you a quality of energy. The mutable, the fixed, and the cardinal. Okay? And that has a beautiful blend with the elements. And of course, there's fire, earth, air, and water, which we'll discuss as we discuss the signs. But I would say that for now, there's one other concept that's important with esoteric astrology that we'll cover, which is veils. Have you heard of veiling, right? So the sun and the moon in esoteric astrology often veil a planet that we are not ready to experience because it's too charged, or because we're not ready to integrate that fully into, humanity is not ready to digest that energy in a way yet. So we work a lot of times with veiling. And the sun would often, the sun could veil Uranus, the sun could veil Neptune, the sun could veil Vulcan, not so much the moon more veils Vulcan. And we'll talk about the meanings of these planets. But there is a concept of veiling that's important for you to know. So it's not always as it seems, in other words. And the moon position, as we evolve, initially could be quite painful, and it's called the prison house of the soul, right? But once we break out of the prison house of the soul, it could be an entry point for Vulcan, which is the blacksmith of the gods. So the moon position could actually give way to a much more refined energy. And yeah. Also in esoteric astrology, when we talk about the planets, there are certain planets that are sacred planets, and there are certain planets that are non-sacred planets. And all that means is planets are, living, gorgeous entities that have gone through many, many initiations of consciousness. They're much farther along on the path. It is said to say that the Earth is in the process of taking the 4th cosmic initiation, okay? So the Earth is a non-sacred planet. Mars is a non-sacred planet. Pluto is a non-sacred planet. But Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus are all sacred, which means they've gotten past the 5th cosmic initiation. So the sacred planets, as we were working with this morning, Venus is a sacred planet, and it has much to teach our Earth. Venus is to the Earth as the soul is to the personality. So these sacred planets, we as humanity sort of need to open our bodies and beings to work with. Mars and Pluto and some of the moon stuff, this is what we're still trying to overcome. This is our personality work that needs to be cleared away and cleaned up so that these more sacred energies can pour through. Good. Good. So what we are going to attempt to do today is to sort of journey through this map. And, you know, I like to think of the astrological map. I'll just tell you my little sort of metaphor because it's easy to imagine, is that I like to think of this map. Here it is, you know, a two-dimensional picture of the heavens when we were born. And I like to think of it as a castle, okay? And we're going to be looking at 3 different points in this castle. We're going to be looking at the rooms in the castle, which are the astrological houses, which are how the heavens are divided. So the rooms in the castle are each of these sections of your chart. And each of those rooms in the castle have a particular texture to them. Is it the kitchen? Is it the map room? You know, is it the bedroom? So there's a field of experience. And of course, there's an esoteric level to these houses as well that we're going to articulate. But I like to think of it as rooms in the castle. And then the planets, are the gods and goddesses or kings and queens in that castle? So, of course, it's very interesting and important what rooms they're choosing to hang out in. They're choosing to give their energy to. The planets are archetypal energies, right? So where is the planet of intelligent love beaming in the castle? You know, where is the warrior spirit? Where does he land in the castle? And then the third piece that we'll look at is what sign each of these gods or goddesses or kings or queens is clothed in. What how love is differentiated through 12 different signs. It's like the clothing, you know, does your Mars show up in an apron or does it show up in full armor? Do you know? So we look at the textures that the planets pour through. So first we're going to create the field of experience, which is the rooms of this castle. Then we're going to put the kings and queens in it. We're going to look at the energies of the planets. And then we're going to look at each particular way that archetype shows up. Okay? Good. So you could take out, there is a sheet in there that says your astrological houses. And you could take that out. I think it's the second sheet on the right-hand side of the folder. And you could use this if you like to take some notes. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I put in one word, you know, it's so hard to essentialize, but I put in one word. And if you're looking at the houses, has everybody found it? Yeah, I'm holding up the wrong one. I'm holding up planets. But you can see that the first house has a number 1 and the inner circle there. Yeah? So let's just take a romp around the castle and let's articulate some of the esoteric meanings, and I'll also throw in a few of the exoteric meanings to help you understand the esoteric meanings, okay? So the first house is like the entryway to the castle. As you walk in, what is the energy that is filling that room? It's like the grand entryway. And it is how you would be perceived walking through, but at a soul level, how would you be perceived? The first house rules the aura. It rules the whole energy body. It's like, do you come through imbued with Venus? Do you come through imbued with Uranus? You know, so if you have first house planets, as we discuss the planets, the quality of that planet is like, here I am in the entryway. Here I am. It's the self. It's the self. It rules the head. It rules the aura. It rules soul. It has a certain quality of the soul quality that presents itself first. So, and the first house is directly connected to the sign Aries. So it's about coming forth in the first house. So again, if there are any, as you look at your own natural chart, your own chart, you'll note if there are a number of planets in that house, or even just one. So if there's Pluto in the first house, you better believe when you walk through the door, You walk through with the power to end, to end what is destructive and to welcome in the light. You walk through with the transformational power. You walk through with the power of the healer. So that's like very apparent, because the first house is very apparent. It is not subtle. It's like, here it is, okay? The second house is the house of your values. I would say it's like the safe, you know, where you would store the riches and the values of a lifetime. It has to do with prana. It has to do with the energy that you have available to manifest something. In an exoteric level, it has to do with money and how you manifest, and it has to do with like a grounded approach to manifesting. But at the esoteric level, it has to do with your whole value system. So what do you consider valuable? How do you create value and beauty in your life? These are the second house questions. What do you want to cherish? What is wealth for you? So absolutely, you can look at it and say, okay, money, let me talk to you about money. But you can also look at that house and say, this is in this makeup, this is what you consider valuable. And if you consider something valuable, you give your time and your energy and attention to it, yeah? So if you give your time and energy and attention and you're in alignment, then you're going to generate resources. It also has to do with resources, like what do you have available to you even from past incarnations? Like what is the wealth that you bring? Okay, that's the second house. And we're going to just sort of like get a little taste and move on. Okay, but and by the way, Taurus is deeply connected to the second house. And likewise, for that matter, Venus would be, because Venus rules Taurus. So sometimes when I say, okay, Venus is connected to the second house, you get a new flavor for what the second house is, because we've just talked about Venus, which is value and soul and beauty. So the third house is the Gemini house. It's very mercurial, because Mercury rules Gemini. It is at the exoteric level, it's the house of brothers and sisters. It's the house of short distance travel, you know. But at the esoteric level, it rules things like telepathy, and it rules the soul and personality interplay, and how the soul and personality come together. And it rules what your message is. I always ask people who have strong third houses in terms of their soul growth, what do you have to say? What have you been given to say, and how must you say it? So the third house really has to do with the field of experience, the area where you can build bridges and you can connect and you can network and you can bring people together, so we weave a tapestry of love. So in the castle, it might be a room that has all the phones and internet, and I mean, internet generally is Aquarius, which is the 11th house, but it's where we connect with the world. It might even be where the mail is. When we get to the base of the chart, the fourth house, we're in the home. It's the roots of a tree. Another way of looking at this chart is like a tree. And at the base of the chart are the roots of the tree and what nourishes you and what feeds you. At the top of the chart is what you have to offer, your dharmic offering. And on the right side of the chart is one branch that has to do with your relationships and who you're going to dance with. And at the left chart, the ascendant, it's like, oh, this is what I'm calling in. That's the ascendant, right? This is what I need to nourish myself, to nourish the world, okay? So we get to the base of the chart in the fourth house, which is home, which is foundation, which is family. But when we look at it from an esoteric perspective, it's the ashram. It's your spiritual family. It's your spiritual home. It also has to do with the end of life sometimes with Taurus. With the fourth house. It has to do with qualities of the texture of the end of one's life or the last years of one's life. But does your foundation feel full of light? Does it feel rigid and confined? Do you know? And this is what we can start to feel through what planets are there, okay? But Cancer rules that house. Cancer says, I build a lighted house and therein dwell. So it's the nourisher, the mother. This is another thing, is the fourth house has so much to do with the mother and the divine mother energy. But at the esoteric level, it's very much about your spiritual home. And who's in your spiritual home? Yeah, and what is your spiritual home? What does your spiritual home feel like? And who's there with you? And who are your coworkers? The fifth house is ruled by Leo. And it is the area, it would be in the castle, it would be where the stage was, the grand stage. And you don't have to be an actor on that stage, you just have to be willing to stand on the stage and offer your gift. But the fifth house has to do with your soul expression. It has to do with the heart's expression. It's the quality it's almost a quality of play with the soul, the playful expression of the soul, because the fifth house has so much to do with children and what we create and what we want to give birth to. So, the fifth house is very much like, whoosh, here I am. Here I am on the stage and I'm willing to offer up these goods. And Leo is so much about leadership and the energy of the child and the energy of identity. So, the fifth house is really about identity. Who am I? The sixth house is ruled by Virgo, and it is a house of daily work. And it has a lot to do with health. But here's where we get, it's the health on the physical level, the emotional level, the mental level. And it requires a lot of care and discrimination to have health on all those levels. I like to think of the sixth house as the field of experience of where you want to do your devoted service. Because it's the Virgo house, and Virgo has so much to do with right work and how you want to serve. So you're not a servant, but you are in true service. So the sixth house can tell you a lot esoterically about your truest service, your right work. And it can tell you a lot about how to clean up and get healthy so that the light of the soul can pour through. Yeah. We'll talk about it when we get to, we'll wait till we get to Virgo. We'll wait till we get to Virgo. But Virgo often gets a bad rap, but it's such a gorgeous sign. Okay, the seventh house is the Libran house. And now, isn't it interesting? The seventh house, it's where we go above the horizon. So now we are integrating the other here. The lower six houses have more to do with the personal self, and the upper houses have to do more with the public self. And you feel yourself come above the horizon line when you get to the seventh house. So you come above the horizon line and you meet someone. You come above the horizon line and you say, hello, can we be partners? So it's a house of partnership. The question is, esoterically, who are your partners? Are you in right relationship? And right relationship has so much to do with kinship, as we were talking about this morning, about your true brothers and sisters, heart to heart, throat to throat, ajna to ajna, crown to crown. It's like, who are the people with whom you need to be working in your ashramic group, in your spiritual groups? So it has to do with making contracts not only with yourself, but with your spiritual brothers and sisters. And it really is the marriage in the heavens. In Libra, this is where the soul and the personality really decide to, it's sort of, Libra is the weighing time between the soul and the personality, which will win. And in Scorpio, the soul emerges victorious. But Libra has the kind of balancing time between the soul and the personality. But really, this is the field where you relate. I relate. How do you relate? To whom do you relate? Who do you choose to relate to? How many ways can I ask that question? Okay. So then in the eighth house is ruled by Scorpio. It's naturally ruled by Scorpio and Mars and Pluto. And Scorpio, the eighth house in esoteric astrology is about, really, it's the occult. It's about discipleship. Because in discipleship, we overcome the dweller. The soul emerges triumphant. So this is the area where we intimately come to know ourselves, and the soul emerges victorious. So it's a battle, it's a struggle. Scorpio, or the eighth house, is profoundly connected to discipleship, but it is the area of death it's a threshold area. It's like where it's death and sex and transformation and anything that profoundly has to do with a communion of our energies. So, in the 8th house, what must die? What must die? What must be sacrificed? And it's a house of profound intimacy, but first and foremost with the self. Profound intimacy. And here you triumph. And here you also learn detachment in the 8th house. You learn detachment. The 9th house is ruled by Sagittarius. And it is, an esoteric astrology, it is the spiritual path. It is the teacher, it is the guru, it is your spiritual path, it is your dream, it is your vision. And it has to do with it's the biggest mind also. If the 3rd house is the concrete mind, the 9th house is about the broadest mind, the biggest mind, and the biggest dreams. And it's about, we all come into the life in our little personalities sort of walking around like this, and the 9th house insists that the blinders are taken off and that we see the rest of the world and we recognize that we are one of humanity and we recognize that there is a gorgeous diversity and that we embrace it. So Sagittarius is, the 9th house is the field where you explore and you take risks and you experience diversity. And you dream big, and there's tremendous aspiration on the quest. The 9th house is the area where you quest. So, in astrology, when a planet is transiting a certain house, it lights up that house. So if Jupiter were transiting the 9th house, you better believe you're going on a big old quest during that year. You better believe there's a profound expansion of consciousness during that year. Around your goals, around your aspirations. So now we're getting to the top of the tree, right? Now we're getting to the top of the chart. We're getting to the place where it's our dharmic offering. The 10th house, which is ruled by Capricorn, is our dharmic offering. It's our career, as we would say in exoteric astrology. But one could have a profound dharmic offering and not necessarily have the most brilliant career out in the world, right? So what is it that you are here to offer to the public, or what is it that you are here to, that you cannot help but give? And it's your mountaintop that, really, if we were going to look at a field of experience, the 10th house would, I guess you could say it could be the very large desk, in the office at the top of the castle, but it's almost the mountaintop outside the castle. It's the summit of the mountaintop. Because in the 10th house, it's like how you want to climb, where you want to climb. And there's tremendous commitment here and tremendous responsibility here. And ultimately, Capricorn and the 10th house, it has a lot to do with authority. And what is the greatest authority? The greatest authority for us at this is the soul, our own soul, at a certain level, So how do we commit to the work of the soul? The 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, and this is after you're on the mountain. You come down into the 11th house, and this is the house of distribution. It rules the internet, It rules creating the worldwide community through connection. This is the realm of our spiritual brothers and sisters. You could say we meet one-on-one in the 7th house, but the 11th house is the realm of our spiritual brothers and sisters. It's the realm of group work. It's the realm of community. Anyone, these gatherings that we have are very 11th house. It's our group, it's group soul work. It's our group creative work. And it's about tremendous authenticity and building community based on shared values and virtues. So, on one hand, it's your friends. Who do you hang out with? What's happening with your friends? But at a much deeper level, it's really who are your people that will help you grow. And how, the Aquarius phrase, which you'll hear again, or the 11th house, is water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty men. So beautiful. And the 11th house is where you get to pour forth your water. It's one of the areas where you get to pour forth your water to the community, pour forth what your wisdom. And then the 12th house is ruled by Pisces, and it's the house that is behind the scenes, right? It's the house that is what is hidden or veiled. It's the sanctuary. I like to think of it as the place where you plug in, where you replenish. But it can also be an area where you get stuck and you escape and you hide. So if anybody that's got strong 12th house is going to have profound sensitivity and either a profound desire to hide away or dare to come out through the doorway of the castle into the front room and say, I'm going to bring all my compassion of the 12th house and all the sensitivity of the 12th house into the light of day. But oftentimes people who have strong 12th houses, they like to work behind the scenes. They're the playwright behind the play. They're the power behind the throne. So, it's a place of unconditional love, the 12th house. Good. So we sort of just created the playing field here. Are there any questions based on the houses? And I can repeat them for those that are. Yes.
The term for the fourth house about the ending of life.
Yeah.
I haven't quite got the sense of it, like what is entailed and what is it.
So the question was about the fourth house and the ending of life and what does that really mean? And I would generally say it this way: the planets in the fourth house, or the planets transiting the fourth house, let's just say the planets in the fourth house have a lot to do with the quality of, or the texture of the end of life. So if you don't have planets in the fourth house, you'd look to the sign that's at the cusp of the fourth house to give a texture of those years, those transition years. So if you have Jupiter there, generally it's quite lovely and expansive, Or if you have Saturn there, those final years might be profound commitment and profound seriousness of purpose.
So it gives a coloring.
Yes. Of those of that the sort of end of life. Yeah. But it's not the only place that you'd look, and it's not, it's obviously has so much to do with your own free will, and that's another very important point to make about esoteric astrology is nothing is done to us, right? It's not like you're being smashed by Mars or destroyed by Pluto. It has so much to do with how do you bring your free will and your willingness and your intelligence to these energies to dance with them. But So just looking at your own charts just for a moment, one very interesting thing as we transition into looking at planets is where in that field of experience, where does your sun shine? Where is the personality doing its primary work? Where there's a tremendous focus in your life that could aid the rising sign. I mean, these are key ingredients to know, just if we think about the sun blazing forth, what area of the heavens is it choosing to land in? And does it speak to you when you look where your sun has landed? Does its position speak to you? And if it does, why don't we have one person give say, yes, this makes sense to me because, or my sun is in the 5th house, and it makes sense to me because. Can you see where your sun is? Where does everybody see where their sun is shining in terms of, yeah? Anybody have a thought? A daring, willing communication? Kathy, where's your sun?
In 7th, in Virgo.
In Virgo. So Kathy's sun is in Virgo in the 7th house. And do you experience, is there a primary focus on relationship, exchange?
I don't like I played sports, and I did not ever like
individual sports. I always had to play team sports. So many experiences.
Yeah, team sports, okay. And also I would say, because it's Virgo in the Libran house, it would be work that would bring you into relationship, because Virgo has so much to do with your right work and, you know, contracts in work and the people with whom you choose to work, and yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
I'm still processing.
Yes, yes, yes. Good, good. Thank you. Thank you for being willing, once I called out your name, to actually. Yeah. Does anybody else want to speak to this? Claudia, how about you? Where's your sun?
In the 10th house, Cancer.
And in what sign?
Cancer.
Oh, Cancer. Oh, 10th house in Cancer. Okay.
It's right next to the midheaven.
Okay. So, and do you have? Could you speak to it being in the 10th house? Have you had a profound focus on, you know, career or your dharmic offering or wanting to climb?
It has actually eluded me.
Uh-huh.
So, and that's maybe something what still will be revealed. I don't know. It's quite mystifying. I have been quite puzzled by it. So it maybe hasn't come to bloom yet.
Well, part of what is mystifying about it, I think, is whenever we have the polarity, we have the sun in Cancer, which is opposite Capricorn, and we'll get to this. But so it's not a pure sun in the 10th house. It's a Cancer sun in the 10th house. So Cancer, which has so much to do with home and foundation and family, is out there on the mountaintop. So the finding a way to blend these opposites is part of the life's work. And
Right.
you know, so it's not just clear cut like I'm achieving, because you need to, as you climb this mountaintop, you're also holding the lighted house.
Yes, the paradox. There's, and then I have Moon in Capricorn. So it's adding to the complexity, and I think I have not yet found a way towards it. Maybe it finds me eventually.
Yeah, yeah. Good. We'll come back to this as we discuss the signs, because that's very important to look at how the polarities. Ultimately, it's said in esoteric astrology, we have 12 signs now. Ultimately, it's said there will be 6. Guess why? Because the polarities become one. Aries, Libra come together. Taurus, Scorpio come together. Gemini, Sagittarius come together. Cancer, Capricorn. Leo, Aquarius. Virgo, Pisces. So we need to find the blend. Yes, Kathy.
I wanted to, I finally got it on that sun in the 7th.
Yes.
When I got married, it's like all of a sudden I felt like I belonged and people could see me. And I just would fit in everywhere I went when I was with him. And when I got divorced, I felt extremely lost and people couldn't see my light.
Well, this is beautiful to articulate, because it's part of the Libran journey, where if you have a strong 7th house, so many of your life lessons and growth opportunities, so that the soul can shine more fully, are going to be through marriage and partnership. And so ultimately, the 7th house is the house of the marriage within the self, right? And so every Libran must come to that. And the gift for Libra is Aries, who says, sure, you can go it alone, and you can go it alone because you've got the marriage within the self, and then you have the marriage within the self, and then you can reach out again to partner even more appropriately, you know? And, you know, there's always the joke with Libra that's like, to find out how you are, you sort of say, how am I? You know, because the Libran wants to know through the other, or wants to learn through the other, or really needs to go with the other. And guess what? Then Aries comes through and goes, no, let's, here, you can come forth. You come forth. And if you come forth, then you come forth and you see somebody in a new light. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. I'm glad you articulated that. Good. So we're going to get to the signs too. I know it's a lot to sort of go sequentially through these things, but ultimately what we're getting is our toolkit, our toolbox, and it's such a relief to have that, because then you can start to play with. I created these laminated cards that for all the signs, for all the houses, and for all the planets, so you can flip them and you can be like, my sun is in Capricorn in the 3rd house, and you can start to piece together all the words, and it feels like such a relief to just play A plus B plus Z, and then you let the intuition in, you know? Yes, but
Okay, so I have a question on my chart that I have, my sun is in the 5th house, but now on the outer wheel is, if you could just look at it real quick for me, would this mean that it's in Gemini or?
no.
Okay.
No, it's, your sun in Gemini. Yes, it is. Your sun is in
Right,
Gemini.
okay,
Yes, in the
okay.
5th house.
Okay,
Yes,
because
yes.
that's, okay, so, okay.
Yeah, I mean, as you look at these charts, sometimes they're hard to decode because the cusps for each of the houses are not necessarily at 0 degrees. So a house could contain both energy of Cancer and energy of Leo. So it is important to make sure yes, you're a Gemini in the 5th house.
Okay, and so then, because I am a Gemini.
Yes, you are a Gemini.
Okay,
and
so
that
would always be like that? Somebody's sun sign would always be on the chart in that spot, right?
Not in the 5th house. It won't always
Not
be
in
the
the
5th
fifth
house.
house,
No,
but
no.
always-
in Gemini.
It would always be in there. Okay.
So like you could be a
Their
sun, you
birth
could be a
sign.
sun in Gemini in any of those houses. So what I was asking just now is like, okay, well, what does the sun in the 5th house feel like?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you've expressed, through words, through language, through connection, through ideas? That's the Gemini part, and the 5th house is the expression, or children, or what you've created.
Yeah, and I love to play. I mean, my grandbaby just loves me.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get on the floor, I can play with her. I'm always trying to get people to, when I see they're sad or something, well, let's play a game, or let's go out and go to a restaurant party or whatever.
And see, this is, on one hand, we're talking about like, okay, this is the joyous personality, but the truth is Leo has a lot to teach us about playfulness and joy, which are essential qualities of the soul, So those that actually know how to play offer a gift for us of freedom, it loosens us up so that we can actually give what we're meant to give. So yeah, sun and 5th house people are willing to share a sort of quality of being. And Gemini is such an energy of childlike curiosity and wonder. So if you have the sun in Gemini, you have the childlike curiosity and wonder in the house of play, in this case. So we get a little taste of that. Excellent. Good, good. Yeah, let's pass it here to Carol.
It's about the polar opposite. You expressed it as being a gift
Yes.
to the opposite sign.
Yes.
Is that to help transform the qualities of the sons of the opposite sign? Is that how you would say it?
Yeah, I would use, we might do some work in embodiment later in our workshop, but I would absolutely use the quality of the sign opposite, your sun sign, even your rising sign, even your moon sign, to help you lift to the next level. So if you're at a certain point with Libra, like we talked with Kathy, and then you need to grow, you call in Aries. If you're stuck in the Libra thing of like just pleasing people and keeping the peace and making sure everything's nice and pretty and your partner's happy, and you need to take the next step, call in Aries. That's like, okay, how do you want to come forth? What is the warrior in you that needs to be on her soul's journey, So you absolutely call in the antidote. And I would say that, in terms of the first level of growth in esoteric astrology, I would start with the moon. And for example, I'm a moon in Capricorn. I share the moon in Capricorn. So I start out with the moon in Capricorn, which can be very rigid and very like, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I will not reveal anything to you. There's nothing going on. Everything's under control, right? And it's kind of an energy of absolute confinement, but everything's ordered and you're going to follow me because I know what I'm doing. But in order to start to soften that or to release myself from that prison, I have to journey over to Cancer. And in Cancer is full of feeling. It's full of come into the lighted house and tell me what, the depths of what's going on for you, and actually begin to articulate, gosh, I am sad. I know that this is like what I'm speaking about now is not esoteric, but the truth is we have to free ourselves from these personality prisons so that we can actually start to say, I am sad. And then something's broken up. Then a crystallization is broken up that allows the new in. So one of the first oppositions that you can use deeply is the opposition to the moon. And frankly, you can do the same thing with the sun. And I have a theory that I may play out later, but I'll just say it. I have a theory also that we come into this life, and let's just say we get a glimpse of our rising sign, like it's coming over the horizon, and let's just say our little personalities get a glimpse of what's coming over the horizon, and we go, and we freak out, and we run to the sign opposite our rising sign. So the sign at the descendant, which would be, exactly opposite on the horizon. And we hang out there for a long while until we get the guts to go over to the truest soul's calling. So if you're a Leo rising, you'd go or hang over in Aquarius. If you're Taurus rising, you'd hang over in Scorpio. And now I'm speaking to the fact with oppositions can sometimes be a hiding place too. But I think it sort of zigzags up or spirals up as you go. So I think with every polarity, if I'm looking across the way, it's an invitation. Every polarity, every opposition in your chart is an invitation for us to meet in the middle. And when Aries and Libra meet in the middle, there is right action. Action is Aries, right is Libra. Do you know? So we'll discuss what each of these things are when they meet in the middle, but it's the antidotes, it's an antidote, it also can be an escape, it also can be a line of growth, okay? So, let's move on to the planets. Are you up for that? All right, and then we'll probably take a break after planets, and then we'll dive into the signs, but let's move on to the planets. Because these are the kings and queens, these are the gods and goddesses, these are the archetypes, these are the values, the divine energies. I mean, planets are divine beings that are working with us to help us grow. So it's not like my Mars is in the 7th house. That's how we say it, but it's kind of funny. It's like this great being of Mars is having, it's sort of an entire sphere of influence, and you are a part of it. But to look at the planets, we talk about the sun already briefly, but the sun is the star, is the personality, is the place where you shine forth, is where you have a certain degree of confidence. And by the way, the sheet in you've probably found it, the sheet behind the houses is the planet house, and you could use that if you wanted to. And there's another sheet in there for later that has some more of the planet descriptions. But so the sun is our focus, and it's like, do this, and it will help you integrate. Do the highest calling of wherever your sun is. Choose the highest manifestation of that and shine it forth. I mean, the sun is kind of beautifully obvious in that the verb shine is what, the sun shines, and that's what you're meant to do with the sun. Shine it forth. And always work to be building in the highest qualities of it. In fact, there's a formula that Michael Robbins, which is the SURE formula, which is strengthen the rising sign, use the sun, rely upon the moon, in the sense that rely on the best qualities. There are good qualities in the moon. Rely upon the moon, and eliminate all the negative qualities of all of those. So strengthen the rising sign, use the sun, rely upon the moon, and eliminate the negative qualities. So sun personality. Moon we also discussed, but it is it's in esoteric astrology. I always sort of prepare my clients. I say this sounds dramatic, but DK calls it the prison house of the soul, right? So where are you imprisoned? Where are you restricted? Where are you held? Where do you refuse to grow? What is keeping you in its confines? What do you need to break out of? And it has so very much to do with our past, and it's so fundamental that we learn to bless the past and cut with it so that we can move forward.
So you were talking about the moon then, were you?
Yes, I'm sorry, I moved on to the moon, yes. So the sun, moon, and I would just say, it's our instinctual nature. It's where we feel most comfortable, but again, comfort is delicious, but not the name of the growth game. Okay? And the rising sign, your soul's calling. Now, let's go to Mercury. Mercury is the bridge builder, the connector. It rules how you communicate, how you think, how you speak. It rules not only the concrete mind, but the abstract mind. It depends on how you're working with it. It's interesting because Mercury is the spiritual ruler of Scorpio, and it cuts through. This is the mind that cuts through all the glamour, all the Maya, all the illusion. And so this is Mercury as the profoundly, the highest intelligence. So Mercury in your own chart is really what you like to think about, what you like to talk about, where you could build bridges, between the soul and the personality even. How you like to connect with a spiritual brother or sister. Mercury gives you the gift of that. It is the winged messenger. It is, you could say it's also fundamental in building the Antakarana, because the Antakarana is a bridge between the soul and the personality. So how do you go about building that Antakarana? With fire, with earth, with air, with water? Do you know, I mean, even the quality of the element. So Mercury is the messenger, how I think, how I speak, how I connect, how I communicate. And whatever house it's in, now we've created the playing field, so whatever house that Mercury is in, you like to talk about, think about, brew about, engage in conversation about that. You have a message about that house. And these are things that you get to meditate on. See, the thing is, again, I'm giving you these building blocks, so now you get to go home and go, okay, my Mercury is in the 8th house. Do I enjoy thinking about the healing, transformational process, the process of death and rebirth? Do I enjoy the process of the therapeutic process, the process of investigation of the true self? So you ask yourself these questions. There's a book that I love that by Elizabeth Rose Campbell, and it's called Intuitive Astrology, and it's not esoteric astrology, but what I love about it, she must have Gemini, is that for every single position in the chart, she asks a question. So, you know, Sun in Gemini, she asks a question. And so it becomes a meditation onto itself. So Mercury in the 8th house, she asks a question. So it might be worth looking at. So Mercury. Venus, we've been talking about Venus, haven't we? Tell me what Venus is. Value, beauty. Spend your time where Venus is and the house that it's in, and you will extract beauty, wisdom, intelligent love. You know, wherever Venus is, you do more of this. Venus is the soul in the chart. I guess you could say one of the primary positions of soul in the chart. And as I said earlier, Venus is to the earth as the soul is to the personality. Venus is our soul sister. Venus has a tremendous amount to teach us as humanity. And it elevates us and it uplifts us. It teaches us through beauty. Here's another question. What do you find beautiful? And we all want to go after what we find beautiful. So name what you find beautiful and see if it resonates with what sign your Venus is in and what your house your Venus is in. And by the way, let me go back a moment and say that with Mercury, the 4th ray is connected to Mercury. So isn't that interesting? Mercury, the 4th ray has so much to do with the opposites and the dance of war and peace, and Mercury flies back and forth, do you know? So there's something about the quality of the opposites, the quality of swinging back and forth between the agony and the ecstasy and the Mercury journey back and forth to build a bridge. Venus brings in the 5th ray, which we were talking about, luminosity, light, beauty through penetrating to the essential truth of something. So again, for Venus, like, what do you find beautiful? What do you love? What do you give value? And do more of it, for goodness sake. That's the antidote to some of our moon stuff. That's the antidote to some of our out-of-control Mars stuff, is do more of that Venus, Venusian. You know, it's even in the Venus on a half shell, or these beautiful pictures of Venus, paintings of Venus from the past, it's like the quality that is offered up through that is like grace and ease and flow and magnetism and beauty. So go there wherever it is in your chart. Yeah. The Earth, non-sacred planet, the third ray comes through Earth, the energy of intelligence. The Earth in the chart is opposite your sun. It is found opposite your sun. And so this is another thing about the opposites. It's so interesting, like you want your sun to shine on the Earth, you know? So the Earth point is also, this is getting a little bit high there, but the Earth point is also the monadic point, which is the spirit point. So you can feel this exchange back and forth. Like here we are in the Earth, the sign opposite the sun. We bring in the sun to shine on the Earth, you know, these opposites. And as we become the integrated sun, the integrated personality, that lends itself to the spirit point, the monadic point. So the point opposite the sun is very important in your chart. It's incredibly important in your chart, and it is the Earth point. And it just speaks even more to what we were saying earlier about these 2 points, these polarities must blend for you to give your gift. And we can come up with phrases that blend those two. Mars, non-sacred planet. The 6th ray comes through Mars. It's aspiration, it's devotion, it's a fight. What are you willing to be a warrior for? What are you, at its highest levels, Mars is about divine aspiration and what you're willing to fight for. At its worst, of course, it's where it's just solar plexus stuff where you want to kill. You know, where rage comes in, where anger comes in, where the fight comes in that is bloody. But at its highest, it's the warrior that's ready to go to war for a cause. And what is your cause? And if your cause is aligned with the soul, then you better believe you can call in Mars in a gorgeous way. Because then Mars is willing to fight. Mars is willing to say, I will summon all the energy that I have, the vital energy, the fiery energy, to lend itself to the call of the soul. So, you know, Venus is the beautiful soul that holds it all. Mars is like, what do you want me to do, Venus? You know, it's like, Mars needs to be instructed by Venus. I suppose, this is interesting, I suppose that just as the sun has to lend itself to the rising sign, Mars is in service to Venus. So your Mars in your chart, whatever it wants to do, you have to listen to the message of Venus to help move Mars. Yeah, does that make sense? So you'll learn more about your Mars placement, but just let your fight always be inspired by beauty. Fight for love, fight for beauty, fight for goodness. Yeah? Jupiter, you know, have you ever seen these, I mean, have you looked at the planets like Jupiter, like here's the Earth and here's Jupiter. It's like, when you look at these pictures, it's stunning to see the enormity of Jupiter. And Jupiter is beneficent, and Jupiter brings in the 2nd ray of love, wisdom. It brings in the energy of inclusivity. It's generous. It grows you in consciousness. So anytime, wherever Jupiter is where you can grow, where you can give, where you will be seen as expressing with generosity. At the exoteric level, of course, with Jupiter, you can do too much of it. It can be excessive. You can overdo, right? But its truest gift is to say, grow again, grow here, more, you know, so that you never stop the shedding of the skin, so that you never stop the process of growth. You're on the evolutionary path, and Jupiter is the big yes. You know, I used to love the author Sark, and she had a little phrase that just said, make little signs that say yes and post them all over your house. And that's Jupiter, you know, it's like, yes. So wherever Jupiter is, like let's say in the field of experience, because we haven't talked about the signs yet, but whatever house it's in, it's sort of like Venus in that, like, do more of this, give more here. If you give more here, more will abundantly come back to you. Be inclusive here, be generous here, be beneficent here, grow here, find teachers here. Yeah? And again, this is a meditation for you. What does it really mean to have Jupiter in the 4th house? It's like Jupiter in the 4th house is like, come into my home and I will nourish you. You know, it's the big, beautiful home. And if you have Jupiter in the 4th house, it could be the big, beautiful ashram where you feel deeply connected to your spiritual family. Jupiter in the 11th house, it's like the big, gorgeous community where you grow through community and you give yourself to community and you give yourself to your spiritual brothers and sisters, okay? So Jupiter says yes, Saturn says no. Saturn brings in commitment and discipline. Saturn brings in the 3rd ray, again, of the mind and intelligence. And, you know, many of our presidents have had, or I could just say many leaders have very strong aspects in their chart between Jupiter and Saturn because they know how to say yes and no. You know, every good leader needs to know how to say both. And they also need to know how to grow and then build the foundation under it. Grow and then build the foundation under it. Or build the foundation, grow, you know, either way. So it's a process of, with Saturn, it's like stand up straight. What do you stand for? What are you willing to commit to? What do you need to bring, where do you need to bring sobriety? Where do you need to bring a quality of coolness, a quality of detachment? Where do you need to bring your authority? Frankly, I feel like Saturn is another incredible portal for esoteric astrology for you to really finish this incarnation having done something. If you address where Saturn is in your chart and do the work of Saturn, good job, right? Because initially, wherever Saturn is feels like again, let's just look at the field of experience and not the sign. It's like, I'm broken here. I don't know how to do this. I'm terrible at this. I hate this. And then you go, okay, but I signed up for it and I'm going to just keep showing up and I'm going to keep showing up and I'm going to keep showing up. Do you know? I myself have Saturn in the 9th house, which is the house of teaching. so you know, it's ironic, right? Or it's not, because so at first Saturn in the 9th house is like, oh no, never, never, please don't. And then you just keep showing up and you keep showing up. And then guess what? You get to become masterful there if you're willing to show up. It's a realm of profound mastery, and it's a realm that you've earned. See, Jupiter gives beneficently, and you don't have to do much for it. Saturn's like work, and overcome adversity and overcome tests here. People with Saturn in the 4th house, you know, often had very troubling childhoods or difficult childhoods, but keep showing up to build your foundation, keep showing up to build your foundation, and suddenly you have this gorgeous, committed, spiritual, deep home. So I'm a big Saturn advocate in the sense that it's like, put your attention there and train. It's also like the Scorpio phrase is test, trial, triumph. I could apply this to Saturn as well. Saturn is where you're tested, and then you go on trial. You're like, I'll keep showing up for the test, I'll keep showing up for it, and then you triumph. You become masterful. Yes? Could we pass the mic? Thank you, I know it's...
Did you say what ray that was?
Saturn brings in the 3rd ray. So there's a profound intelligence. See, it's interesting because Saturn also then is connected to the Earth, because the Earth brings in the 3rd ray and Saturn brings in the 3rd ray. So guess what? We're hugely tested on Earth. You know, it's like Saturn is a big planet for us. We go through the tests. Just like Jupiter is connected to the Sun. They're both 2nd ray planets. I don't think I told you that the Sun is 2nd ray. So this is another fascinating study to go, oh, what planets are connected by rays? And Saturn and the Earth. So are you willing to meet your tests with, are you willing to meet your tests standing up straight? Are you willing to meet your tests with breath and conviction and patience and authority? We all want to become, Carolyn Casey says of Saturn, we want to become the authors of our lives. Authority. Authority is to have authority is to be the author of your life. And Saturn is deeply connected to authority. And ultimately, guess what? In exoteric astrology, Saturn is everything to do with the father figure, right? And daddy and the troubles of that. But ultimately, or the parental energy. But ultimately, guess what? We are our own parent. The soul is our parent. So it's not the authority outside of me that destroyed my life. It's the authority that I breathe within that I invite in to become the soul-infused personality that allows me to move forward with grace and strength. So always we're inviting Saturn in to grow stronger. Okay. Uranus. Uranus is the god of lightning. If Saturn follows the rules and is very responsible, Uranus breaks all the rules. But it breaks the rules in esoteric astrology in the name of authenticity, in the name of revealing your true soul name, so that what you give forth is an authentic offering of the truest name of you. So Uranus is the god of reinvention, or the god of invention, the god of innovation, the god of electricity, the god of lightning. It is the god of change, and it shakes up your world so that you grow. If Jupiter goes, grow, 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 Uranus goes, ka-chung, grow, You're like, okay, I'll grow. So it unhinges the hinges, or, it gets you kind of shape, okay, now who am I? Now what am I? It smacks you in a good way. So the seventh ray comes through Uranus. And the seventh ray wants to create a new order. And it wants to bring in the new ceremony. And it wants to bring heaven to earth. It wants to bring the plan of heaven to the earth. So guess what? All the revolutions that are going on in our world right now, all the upheaval is necessary to shake up the current plan so that the true divine plan can land and can manifest. So Uranus shakes up the present, shakes up your world and invites in the new. And it's interesting. At 42, Uranus opposes Uranus in your chart, because Uranus takes 84 years to go around a chart. So at 42 it opposes it, which is the astrological midlife crisis. Because Uranus wants freedom, and Uranus wants authenticity, and Uranus looks across the way and it's like, I'm halfway through. Am I being free? Am I being authentic? And so this is the part, this is a fascinating time when you go, what do I have to do to change, to become more authentic, to become more true to my deepest inner name? So again, a gorgeous energy that is, that wakes us up. So wherever Uranus is in your chart, in what house, it wakes you up there. You get to be an awakener there. You get to wake up and be an awakener. It's a place where you might get constantly hit by lightning, in the sense like, oh, I gotta wake up again. It's a place where you need freedom. That's why Uranus in the 7th house is a classic divorce indicator, because, right, it's like, in exoteric astrology, it's like, your relationship gets hit by lightning. But ultimately, Uranus in the 7th house it gets hit by lightning so you have the truest connection so you have a right relationship, so you create right relationship. Yeah? Which, by the way, Uranus is the soul-centered ruler of Libra. So, Uranus wants to wake us up to right relationship. So again, wherever Saturn is in your chart, in that house, you better believe you better stand up straight and commit and bring in your authority. Wherever Uranus is, be free. What is freedom? Be authentic. Be willing to change. Invite the change. Invite the change with invocation. And also wherever Uranus is, I would say to you is a place where you could invite your allies. Because Uranus has so much to do with group work. So it's like, invite your people into that house. It's a place to have group activity. Neptune. Now we're on to Neptune. Neptune brings in the 6th ray. So Neptune is, it's always funny when I do a chart, I have to laugh because it's, of course, always, it's almost always the last planet that I kind of address unless it's somewhere really prominent, because Neptune has it's like veiled, it's this planet of exquisite beauty and exquisite sensitivity and transcendent love, but it's the god of the waters that sort of flows quietly and unseen and subtly. So it's not like Uranus that bangs, it's like, it's not like that at all. It's just very much like, and suddenly Neptune is in your life, it's like, right? So it's it's a gorgeous planet of, basically it's the heart of the sun. It's the heart opening. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. It's looking across at another and merging soul to soul, heart to heart. It's the place that allows you to merge, that allows you to redeem, that allows you to uplift, that allows you to transcend. It's also, in esoteric astrology, it's where you can get most confused, most full of glamour, most in a fantasy world. Again, if you had Neptune in the 7th house, you might be like, and I love you, you're gorgeous, you're in my night. And then suddenly 2 days later, it's like, ah. But, Neptune makes a pretty dream at the exoteric level. But it actually brings the dream manifest at the esoteric level. It is the gorgeous dream of love transcendent that is possible, where we do recognize that we are one souled, that we do recognize that we are one. So it's where you can bring exquisite, nourishing love and inspiration and imagination. And it's where you might feel most idealistic. At first we might feel, with wherever Neptune is, we might feel, there's confusion or illusion, but we all need a little idealism. Like, where can you get fired up? Where can you feel idealistic? Where could you sing to dream the impossible dream? In what area of your life? Because that's very Neptunian. To me, it's like the light on the ocean. It's the god of the ocean. It's something subtle and beautiful and transcendent and takes your breath away. Neptune. Okay, and Pluto brings in the 1st ray of will and power, and Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. So it definitely knows how to end things. It definitely knows how to kill things. It definitely knows how to get into the darkness and the muck and redeem it and uplift it. And it purges, it gets rid of the darkness. It addresses the darkness. You have to go into the darkness with Pluto. It's a profound planet of transformation. And so wherever Pluto is, you better believe you're going to go through some pretty transformative process. You're going to crash and burn. There's going to be, high highs and low lows in a sense. But it wherever Pluto is brings in your capacity to say, this is the end. We are done with this. No more. And it's the power of, ultimately, it's the healer, right? Because what does the healer do? It extracts the toxins. It gets the toxicity out. It gets the poison out. So where do you need to get the poison out? In the chart? Where do you need to get the poison out, and where do you need to bring in the healing energy? So it is, again, and Pluto is not a sacred planet. So it still has some growing to do along with us. But it has tremendous power when used correctly. It's either the power to kill or the power to transform and heal. And then let's bring in the undiscovered planet Vulcan, because Vulcan is always within, it is said, by the way, we have Dave Walters is our expert on Vulcan, but he's devoted his life to Vulcan. But Vulcan is within 8 degrees of the sun, we think. So we don't really know exactly where it is, but we think it's within 8 degrees of the sun. So for some of you, you know that it's in the sign that your sun is in, and for some of you, you don't, because if your sun is at like the 27 degrees or 1 degree of a sign, it might be in another sign. But just to know, the energy of Vulcan is also first ray. And it is the blacksmith of the gods that hammers matter into shape. It forges the armor for the fighter. It forges matter into shape so that it can wield more light. It sort of gets your whole body and being into shape so that you can be a carrier of the light. And that's why it's connected to Taurus. Because Taurus is so much about seeing light, seeing light, carrying light, embodying light. So Vulcan is like a V in the chart. In fact, it doesn't even show up on your chart, but put it next to your sun. And it's the impress of will. It's said that we are not ready for, we're not ready for Vulcan yet, because Vulcan really brings in spiritual will, and we can't even begin to taste what that's like yet, because we don't even really know what the truest spiritual love is, So when we're ready for the will, when we're ready to use will correctly, then we will discover Vulcan. Any questions? Yes?
I know this sounds silly, but I can't seem to find Pluto on my chart.
It's a weird
Is
design.
it different on the solar fire? Is it an arrow?
Arrow.
Yeah, okay, so it's an arrow. It's not I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Yeah, on solar fire, Pluto is either drawn as an arrow pointing up or as the chalice with the circle in it. Yeah. Yeah, the astrologers use both. Any other questions about the planets? Yes. Can we hand her the mic so that we have it? Yeah, that's okay, thank you.
This may not be totally appropriate, but the Earth is a planet, and do you spend any time studying its effect on the other planets? Because this is the blue planet, the planet of nature and green, and does that have an effect on the other planets, or are we just receiving in our personal growth?
It's an excellent question. And
it's not an appropriate question.
No,
it's not one to be answered because it's an open question.
Well, in a beautiful way, you've just brought something into the room that is a beautiful question to ponder, because we do talk so much, it becomes so geocentric, like what are all these energies, how are they impacting? But I would imagine, I don't have a great answer to that, but knowing that the third ray pours through the earth, also knowing that there's tremendous second ray with the earth as well, I would imagine that our impact on the other planets, and who knows how we impact them, would have to do with intelligence, would have to do with our striving to become a sacred planet, would have to do even perhaps with I would assume that our process of initiation right now, as we are walking it as humanity, and these initiations of consciousness as the human kingdom on the earth, must have.
Well, it seems everyone is hoping we will do a good job.
Yes.
And we'll respond to all these energies.
But it's also beautiful to, just as you presenced the lushness, the green, the waters, I can't help but think that the natural world, the fertile quality of the earth has its resonances. Yeah. I tell you what, my friends, let us take a break. You've been so lovely. Let's take a break, and we'll come back and we'll dive into the signs, which will be a ton of fun. Thank you so much.